Hey guys, what's going on? It is Monday the 15th of May 2023. We are on a Monday market breakdown. We're finally back. Okay, so what we're looking at here on the DXY is essentially, this is my watch list and wildcards for the week. I did take out USD CAD just because it wasn't anywhere near ready. I think it was just something I wanted to put on watch, and that was just kind of, after kind of listening to one of the other coaches speaking, I kind of realized that it's just something that is not ready yet. There's no point putting it on watch. It's just diverting my attention when I put my focus better on other things. So completely removed it. So I've got 6 on 4 this week, including the DXY. As we can see with the DXY, we are gravitating higher, but at the moment we have a few inflection points. We have a near miss to this inflection point, however. We did move up there pretty aggressively, so I wouldn't be assuming that this could completely turn around right now. This could just sit in this area a little bit and continue going higher. I think that's more likely than probable at this point. However, there's always the possibility that we can come off one of these small inflection points and make a little turnaround and potentially come back to the low again. Always bear that in mind. So for the longer term perspective, I am looking at the DXY going up higher to reach these highs, and that is something I think is very important to pay attention to, as we're going to see that affect a lot of the US related pairs. We do as well have a lot of US news coming up this week, which we'll go through as we get through the US pairs. But jumping straight into the watch list, starting with Euro USD. Euro USD. So essentially we have a near miss to this high, which we can see on the higher time frame. If I go into the daily, we can see that we have this inflection point, call it a hook point over here, and price has gravitated towards it. As we approached it, we had some immediate impulsive action to the downside. Now we did have a strong pullback over here, which was kind of giving that indecision with the possibility for it to come back up. Didn't quite get there, and now we've started to decline. I am looking for that long position. We haven't quite got it. At this point over here, it was looking like it could be shaping up pretty nicely. We're just waiting for it in anticipation. And, if it did come down here, that could kind of cause a little flaw and go. But at the moment, we're still kind of trickling in this area. So it's not something that I'm just going to jump straight into now. I think this was the value area, but considering that we haven't quite, we've broken through it and now we're just sitting below it, I'm going to wait for price to pull back up into this area and then create continuation to the upside, and that's when I'll be getting involved. I won't just be getting involved anywhere down here now. So over here was just where the retrace was anticipated. Small countable insurance entry, but it's not really played out, so just gonna have to leave it alone and give it some time to materialize. Most likely check it at the end of the hour, see where the candle lands, and then take it from there. So that's basically it for Euro Aussie. In longer term perspective though, we are looking at potentially coming back up to these highs. We don't have to. There's always the possibility that this becomes something larger, for it to come down to these areas, so bear that in mind as well. But I think the possibility of this coming up to fill that near miss is quite probable, and it's just a question of, is it going to happen now, or are we going to do something else before that happens? So moving on to the next pair, we'll be talking about New Zealand. New Zealand US dollar is one that I think needs a little bit of time to materialize. However, I am looking at the short position on it. So if we just go over to the daily, we can see that we've had this higher time frame area which hasn't quite been filled. If you look at it quite close, there's been a near miss and then another near miss to it. However, we did sell off quite aggressively. It's very likely that we will create this pattern and tap into this low before we pull back up here, but then this is something much larger in itself, I believe. So what I'm actually looking at is, this is one larger structure for it to move higher. So positioning myself down here would be very strategic and very, very good. However, we just need to take a message from the market. At this point, I'm looking for a simple 1, 2, 3 movement. So just creating a nice flag in there. The longer it takes, the better it is, in my opinion. So give it another hour for it to kind of just create its top, and then when it gets back down here and comes all the way back up for the third touch, that's when I'll be inclined to look for a short position. And then with that short position, there's a possibility, if we do create the top over here, might be able to squeeze in, let's say, a 13 pip stop loss, to the low, I could be looking around about a 10% position, and then I'll be positioning myself in the market potentially in these areas for the long position when presented. And then if I do get that long position, let's just say that it comes in with a 15 pip stop loss back up to the high, that's another 21% position, and it might be a case of coming out of this trade and entering into a new trade. So we'll have to wait and see, but I think New Zealand US dollar is looking phenomenal, honestly, absolutely phenomenal. So we're going to have to just give it some time to materialize, but I think it's going to be a very, very nice trade. GBP US dollar. Now, GBP US dollar hasn't quite created the top I was looking for at this point. I was hoping for something a little bit more tight in this area. However, looking at it now in hindsight, perhaps it just wasn't meant to be. It's developing into something much further. It could be more angled, it could be larger. You know, I think it just needs more time. So GBP USD is one that potentially might take a little bit longer to prepare itself, or it might become a lot larger than expected. This isn't the sort of size that I am looking for though. However, if it does happen to be the angle, it is what it is. There's the possibility that this is just a part of this corrective leg. However, like I said, that's not the size of flag I'm looking for in this area. I'm looking for something a little bit more tighter, so I'm just going to be waiting in anticipation for it to just develop itself, and then when that entry is presented again, I will potentially be able to get involved with, you know, roughly, hopefully a 10% 10 pip stop loss. Could be 5% to the low, and then to these areas, you know, 14 onwards. So we just have to wait in anticipation for this. I think there's a lot of opportunities arising, so I think patience is the most key at the moment, rather than just kind of throwing your capital in any old trade. I think waiting for these very prime entries are the ones. So that's basically it for GBP USD. There isn't much else to kind of look at on this. We are coming from the high time frame high. We've broken it very nicely, pushed down aggressively. Now it's just a matter of being quite patient to get involved. So when that does shape up, just be very, very sharp, because I think it'll be a phenomenal entry as well. Next one is GBP CAD. Now GBP CAD, hopefully it'll be one that's going to be ready today. How I'm actually looking at this, on the daily we can see that if we are forecasting a potential reversal pattern, or let's see an ascending to this high, it can be forming as a running channel. We have to be aware of that this can just run its course all the way back up to this high as well. So positioning yourself in this market for the counter short is not a bad thing, because it's very, well, it's very strategic, but also for the long position, I think it's even better. So this is a counter short position for the long. How I'm looking to take it is I'm looking at this becoming the potential possible reversal pattern, or the running channel continuation pattern to the high. We are coming from a nice impulse. We've started to correct, and now we've squeezed up. This could become a little bit more corrected than we expect. However, in this scenario, we are creating enough accumulation here for the short play. How I'm looking to take this is, well, I'm going to let it do its thing and kind of correct all the way up to here. But when it starts approaching these areas, I just want to keep an alert on, so that it's going to also let me know if I am, you know, happen to be away from the chart, I'm doing anything, and I just, you know, get busy and forget. At least my alert will go off and let me know. What I want to do is wait for price to kind of just make its way back up here. And there's always the possibility that, you know, we could spike up and come back in. The moment we come back in is when I'll be looking to get short in the market. If it does mean that I have to take a little bit larger than expected stop loss, it is what it is. At the end of the day, I'll be able to experience the run and be involved. With a large stop loss like 40 pips, still there's a 10% position on the table there to this low. It's a very, very nice run. I think this could be a very good position and a very strategic position to be involved. If we can get that tight stop loss that we all want to get into, call it around about 11 pips, you know, there's a 30% odd position in there. And, you know, if it does happen to go a little bit lower and push, you know, that it could turn into a monster for trade. So in my opinion, this is a very, very good pair to be having on watch this week. I'm super excited about just experiencing this trade if it does play out. If it does begin to just drop off, it is what it is. There is more than enough in here for it to sell off at this point. However, waiting for this entry up here is probably the best entry in my opinion. However, you know, at the end of the day, there is a reduced risk entry in there where you could potentially look at that with 100 odd pips, a little bit larger than I'd want, and then you could be looking at potentially around about 3% to the low. So at the end of the day, it's however you want to take it, whatever you're comfortable with. Personally, I would wait for the position up here, but that's just because it kind of fits me. For you, you might, be more than happy to take that reduced risk entry and then just use that as a little bit of a buffer to enter your next position. So that's basically it for GBP CAD. And yeah, hopefully this trade does play out and we will be able to record it and I'll be able to share it with you. The next one is Euro USD. Now, Euro USD is very much similar to, I think it was GBP US dollar, and a few of the other pairs you're probably going to see. They're all in this continuation state now. So we've come off a very high time frame area, which I'm, quite happy about. And yeah, I mean, look, if you look at it in hindsight, we did break above this. However, there is a little point up here we haven't quite reached. So we have to understand that there's the element where price can push lower, but we can aggressively start pushing back up. So understand the risk that comes with this as well. However, looking at how the DXY is performing at the moment, if we do start moving aggressively to this area, we'll be seeing the same thing with Euro USD, where we aggressively move to this area, perhaps maybe a little bit lower, which I think would be very, very good. So as I don't trade the DXY directly, there's always the Euro USD, which I do look at. And like I said, if the trade actually does start to shape up on the DXY, we will see a similar price movement on Euro USD, and at that point I'll be able to position myself. I think, like a lot of the other pairs, it's a matter of being patient. These trades could shape up by Wednesday, they could shape up tomorrow. If aggressive, they could shape up today. There's a lot of news coming out on on both GBP and US dollar. It's not news, it's not something that I completely take a lot of attention to, but I do use it as a piggyback for volatility. So just be aware that there is some volatility coming in the market on these particular days, around about New York session, and I think that can also give it that catalyst for it to just have that push, which it might need. But in many senses, I think what is good at this point in time is that where we are positioning ourselves. If we position ourselves here for a short, we just have to be aware of this low, this low, this low, and then if we can just smash through them, we'll be good to go for this price target down here. So positioning myself here is very good, aware of this high here, but if we look at it on the DXY, we are coming from a significant low. If we do suddenly start selling on the DXY and come to this low for any particular reason, then there's absolutely the full possibility we could come up to this high and then start dropping off, and then DXY starts shooting up. So just be mindful about these positions, but I think at the moment with the Euro USD, just keep it very simple. We're looking for a continuation pattern to the low. I think this is more than enough in size. On the 4 hour it should be more clear, and then on the 1 hour you can go in for refinement or lower. But yeah, absolutely, I think this is going to shape up to be a very nice position if we do get that 1, 2, 3. However, we just need to give it time to just kind of give us a message to say what is the pattern, how is it forming, and so forth, and then be able to position ourselves. But that's basically it for Euro USD. Euro Japanese Yen. So with Euro Japanese Yen, I'm more interested to see this pattern form where we are getting this sort of larger flag. If we go to the daily, we can see that we have more than enough, or actually weekly might be a little bit better. We have more than enough to negate the sell. So we are coming from a very good area of value. However, looking at it on the daily, it's not the most progressive for the short currently. Still can drop off quite aggressively. However, this does look somewhat corrective. Going on to the 4 hour kind of paints it a little bit more, which gives me that indication that this could sell off. Well, most probably has a high possibility of selling off, and on top of that we do have the supporting structure of a head and shoulders, so left shoulder, head, and then the right shoulder over here, which could definitely form this to push it aggressively. However, currently we're looking at a possible retest, and that's the only way I'm seeing this right now. Is if we look at it like this, we are in that area where we could sell off and we don't need to create this 1, 2, 3. However, it's not in my plan to take this sort of trade off the retest, so I wouldn't just enter it. However, if I was going to take a trade, right now would be the area where I'd be positioning myself for that head and shoulders trade. It's optional. It's completely optional, up to the trader. If there was a nice flag forming, I wouldn't take it. I would look for an aggressive push away and then something in this region here for the short, if that was the way I was going to take it. But at this moment in time, I'm going to be waiting, keeping it very simple. And yeah, I'm just going to be looking at it like this: flag and then drop off. If we get it, we get it. If we don't, we don't. There'll be more opportunities on the way down. The possibilities are endless. And then essentially over a period of time, when we do get to this region over here, that's when I'll be looking at where we are, and if we can position ourselves to go back up, that's when I'll be looking for that big sell off there. And that's why I really want to be positioning myself in the market, because that's when I can get into the potential of a future downtrend, or this could just aggressively push up and reach to these areas. So going long and counter short at the moment. So there's a lot of counter trades on the table at the moment, but that's basically how I'm looking at it. Definitely some good possibilities, some good trades there. And that's basically covering my outlook for Euro, Japanese yen. So guys, that is my watch list for this week. I know it's nothing incredible. There was just a few good pairs in there. I think it just takes a matter of time to materialize. Once they've materialized and they're all set up and ready to go, I think it's going to be a very, very good run. So jumping into the wildcards now, I'm just going to have a little water break and then come straight back. Awesome. So wildcards. I'm basically going to just go through these. I know usually I make titles and everything for the wildcards, but I think at the moment it's not something I'm really going to bother with. So just for people who are quite new, because I know I did get quite a lot of new followers whilst I was inactive, when I highlight them red, it means it's on daily watch. So these would be my main focus for the day. And essentially when I do leave it on green, these are just the wild cards. Orange, blue is not ready, perhaps maybe next week. Keep an eye on it on the side when there's nothing else going on, but probably wouldn't take a trade on it unless something dramatic changes. And then orange is just my wildcards. So watch list is my main pairs that I'm looking at, and then wildcards are the ones that could shape up late week, perhaps probably next week, but definitely worth having on here as well, but they're just not a part of the main watch list. Usually maximum I have 6 on 6 with the DXY included. Sometimes I put the Japanese yen or the Aussie yen, and that's basically it. So I do trade commodities, indices. I don't trade cryptos, but sometimes I look at them, and indices. Favorite pair of all time, most traded pair was Germany 40, but it's now just come into currencies, and I think favorite pair of all time now is most probably USD CAD, but from performance I think it's probably something completely random like Euro Aussie or something. But yeah, so jumping straight into the wildcards, we'll just have a quick look at that. So Euro CAD, the first one, I am looking at this continuation pattern to the low. So we have come from this level here, we've tapped into it and aggressively pushed away. Right now we are in that position where we are forming a flag, but I think it just needs a little bit more time to develop. I think by tomorrow it should be somewhat ready. If we do get something in this region here, this would be very nice in my opinion, where we kind of create the middle section, we push back up, we tap into either this area, most probably up here, and we can position ourselves for the short position. That's basically it in that opinion for me. So we have to understand that when we do take this position, there's two areas we have to be mindful of. We have this area and this area. If we do take the short position in this area here, where we get tagged in over here, and let's just say we've got a stop loss here, we have to understand that if we come here, we can potentially have the position bounce off, create this, and then this just becomes something a lot larger in itself. And then it meets with that low, there's always the possibility that it just retraces and goes back up, and then this becomes the larger pattern as well. So that's just basically how I'll be looking at it. Obviously at this moment in time, this is a good area for me to be positioning myself if the position does come about. If we can get a little tight stop loss in there, that would be absolutely phenomenal. That's basically what I would be looking for, is that advanced trade there, where we can take that 15% odd percentage, where it can literally run and push with the higher time frame there, and hopefully come down to these lows here, where that would then become a very, very nice position. However, keeping it very simple for now. All I'm going to be doing is waiting for this to form, and then once we have that and we have a nice little middle section in there as well, that will be exactly how I will be looking to get involved. So yeah, that basically covers my position for Euro CAD. Moving on to the next one, which is Aussie CAD. I think Aussie CAD is also looking very interesting. I think it needs a bit of time for development. It's not the easiest one to trade. However, we have had this very corrective squeeze lower. Now we are happening to create a more obvious flag. If we go onto the line chart, it's a little bit more clear to see. We had a more obvious flag over here, which was in this region here. We didn't kind of fulfill it to how we would usually take a trade, but there was definitely an entry in there, which I will highlight on the candles. So if we look at this little bit of price here, and you can see that we had this high here. As price kind of taps into here, we didn't quite fill it. So if you look very closely, there was a near miss to the low. We just zoom in a little bit more, obviously we are on the daily, it's clearer on the lower time frames. There was a near miss, we didn't break it, but we did start pushing up quite correctively. Now when we did start pushing up, we have to understand that where we're coming from. On the higher time frame, we are moving down quite aggressively. There is the possibility we could move up higher. However, if you look on the 4-hour time frame, we didn't quite break it, we didn't even get there, we didn't even tap into it. So for that reasoning, there's the possibility that, okay, we could come back and revisit this. We then looked, we pushed up, we corrected, and then we pushed up again. As we're in this sort of correction zone, we're looking for an entry in this area. As we go next, we didn't quite tap into that as well, near enough the same as the low. But what we did over here was we started dropping off, and then we just somehow just aggressively pushed up. At this point here, we had the wick on the 4-hour, which we filled, and then as that got filled, we retraced in this area. There's definitely a possibility for a very good trade over here, and yeah, call it around about that. And you could have looked at that as a position and then got into this and then managed it. Probably you would have been out of the position around about here, in my opinion, 2.28, or you could have held through and yeah, you could have managed to this low here. And I think at that point there, I would have probably been very aggressive with my management and been out of the market. But really and truly, this did go. And yeah, I mean, if you wanted to manage it according to the management plan, however you choose to manage, you know, there was potentially around about 4% in there. So there we are. And then if you look at where we are now, we've just began to just correct, and currently we're sitting over here. So we are essentially in this area here now where we are potentially coming back down to this low. However, we have to understand that there is the possibility that we can come back up here. Probably not so likely, but because of this, how this is correctively moving in this sort of way, I'm not convinced that I want to be getting involved on any position at this moment in time until something significant happens. However, I would be completely aware that there could be some sharper movements in the market. It was one that I kind of just wanted to put on just in case something shaped up, because it's like one of them situations where I think this pair is on the daily, which is the most important. It's in a very good area for the continuation to the downside. So what I am looking at here is just this section over here. Take that off and we'll keep this one on and over here. So if we look at this and then we look at this, we're now in an area where if we can somehow come back up to this area, I can then look to position myself to go short, and that's how I'm looking to take it. So I'm just looking at this as its one own single area of interest, and probably just kind of break it down a little bit like that, and that's it. Simple. Just looking at it here, perhaps maybe we're going to get an interesting push out, push back in, and then with that we can look to position ourselves in the market even with a 30 pip stop loss, and then take it to this low. And then if we zoom out to the higher time frame, even though it's corrective, it can still correct and just keep going, and we might break through this and it turns into a much bigger trade. So you know, there's definitely good possibilities here for us to get involved. I think that's one of the main reasons why I did want to have Aussie CAD on, because I think even though it's moving in a very corrective nature, it just continues moving. So we'll have to wait and see for Aussie CAD. The next one is CAD Yen. Now CAD Yen, I think it's going to be a very, very nice trade. This is one I'm very much looking forward to. CAD Yen trades do come about quite often, but when they do come about, they're quite nice. This is one of the larger structures, which I'm more in favorable for. Only reason being is I know that the impulse following is going to be somewhat nicer than most, as we can see with a few other areas. When you do have larger patterns forming, they do start to move and don't come back for some time. So essentially, yeah, I'm just gonna look at it this way. So I'm going to use this as the flagpole method, where you basically taking this section here, which is point here to here, and then we take it, stick it at the bottom of the pattern, and we can see that it kind of just lines up with this area here. Now really and truly, it could even take it from here and it lines up here. If we do take a position, and let's say that we come and meet to this low here, which is something that I am somewhat interested in as well. Let's just move that a little closer, yep. And we'll zoom into the daily. I will not be in favorable to just wait for that third touch. I think once we get to the override, that's when I'll be very sharp. As we get here, at that point there, I'll be looking, and let's just say that, you know, turns into a push up, push back down, we get a flag, turns into risk entry, 20 pips wouldn't be wrong. It could be tighter, 20 pips, and then to this low it could be roughly 35%, and then to here 82, and then, which I don't think is very much likely, but if we do sell off more aggressively to this low, it could be over 100%. So yeah, so that's basically it for CAD Yen. And then USD Yen, very, very similar, just a different sort of forming pattern. The reason for this one is, and all the yen pairs are looking very good, including EJ. I think, you know, we can see here that we've had the near miss, we near missed again, and now we're just gravitating above. If we were going to sell off, we would have been in this area here, and we would have just created our flag. It's a little bit larger than the push though, so it's not really in my favor, but then we would have just been ready to go. And same in this area here. It's no coincidence that we started correctively moving like this, and then correctively moving like that, and then slowly making our way up. Surprisingly, we didn't quite tap into that high yet, but it's just not ready yet. It's still accumulating some more money, and then we'll push up and then sell in, and then that's when you want to be getting involved. So just have to be extra patient on that one. Like I always suggest, it's always good to just set an alert, leave it, takes a second, and then with that alert, you know, when it lets you know, it lets you know essentially. So you don't have to do anything. It's just going to start pinging your phone or your computer, whatever. Your watch, if you have an Apple Watch, I know that you can actually set these alerts up with your TradingView app, which connects to your watch as well, and then it just basically lets you know what's going on which pair. So however you want to make it work for you, make it work. Just be aware that these are the value areas. So I do apologize if my video has been a bit over the place. It's been the first proper video I've done in some time now, so I need to get back into the swings of things. But really and truly, I think the markets have shaped up and they're really nice. There was some phenomenal opportunities during Q1, and I think now that we're in Q2, you know, it's just even better. I'm so happy that I come back to the markets and there's still so much opportunity. It just shows that, you know, we don't need to rush into trades, and, you know, as traders we don't need to, you know, think that, okay, we need to get everything done now, because I literally went away for, let's say, call it 2.5 to 3.5 months, where I was kind of absent in terms of my full process. Wasn't absent away from the markets completely, but absent from my processes, focusing on other investments, property and so forth. And even though that went really well and a lot of success came out of it and basically secured my freedom even more, I think what's mostly important is that, you know, the knowledge and the hard work you're putting in every day, every week, every month compounds, and you don't lose it. So, I think one of the things is sometimes a little break can be good for you, but at the same time, you don't want to come out of sync. You want to make sure you're where you need to be if you're intending to take a break, because I've put in a solid 2 years, with prior 10 years odd before that as well. So I think I've been so constant on the train for so long with very minimal breaks. Having a small break after so much hard work has been a very, very positive thing. Definitely have a few lessons, always learning things. I don't think anybody's perfect, but at the same time, you're progressing, which is the most important thing. So if you are still in the journey, or you've just joined the journey, you've definitely got a lot of exciting things ahead of you. I think definitely following myself is one good thing for yourself as well, because you'll be picking up loads of little tweaks, technical analysis, and nuggets that have been passed down to me that I can pass on to you, and so forth. But at the same time, I always urge, back test everything that you see how it works. Don't take everything for gospel, especially if you are on YouTube. There's a lot of nonsense on YouTube. A lot of people trade different strategies. A lot of people don't talk about the mindset. So these are very, very important things as well that you need to realize. So all in all, have a good trading week. I will be dropping another video tomorrow and every day, hopefully, probably not the weekends. Going to be trying to take the weekends to kind of just relax a little bit more these times, but I'll be dropping videos consistently as much as possible now. So hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button if you did enjoy the video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thank you for watching.